Hello, Thomas.
Well, hello, Sean. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great tonight. How are you?
I am doing well. This is the season finale of Profiled Season 1. This is episode 12. Can't believe it went by so fast. But
The
of
year's going
course,
by fast.
yeah, you know, when it's a season finale, you got to pull out some of the punches. And some people might take one to the chin. Again, like I always say, if it resonates with you, take a look in the mirror, fix it. But we're going to be profiling the paranormal community, those types of things. Of course, it's going to be on the up and up. I never call anybody out. I'm a professional, and I just want to make sure that we're going to take a look at behaviors, just like in general, and how they correspond with the paranormal. And
Right.
hopefully, this helps a few people out. But first things first, Connecticut Paracon is coming up. That'll be July 11th. Again, our big theme this year is we have the first Jason Voorhees ever, and from the original Friday the 13th, Ari Lehman. Of course, his band will be playing later on in the evening as our secondary event. His band called First Jason. Tickets are still available, only $20 to go see him, which is crazy, especially how much concerts cost now.
That's
Um,
awesome.
also, yeah, also the most recent Jason, of course, James Stokes, who's been on your show, has
Hmm.
been on my show. Nicest guy you'll ever meet. Always takes his time with people, so it's always great to have him at an event. And we got a whole bunch, an array of people, as you could see. www.connecticutparacon.org. Check that out. But more recently, this weekend, there's still a few tickets available. Just go on www.hauntedhillviewmanor.com. Saturday is a day and evening with Mr. John Zaffis, the godfather of the paranormal himself, myself, my partner Stacia Wills, Mary Jo Chudley from Penn Paranormal. We'll be assisting John and having some fun with him. So come out, learn from John, get to investigate with all of us. So that is still available. Again, www.hauntedhillviewmanor.com. Of course, Connecticut Paracon. And then right after that, because I'm going to be on a break for a little while, so let's get it in August 8th and 9th in Hartford, Connecticut at the old State Building will be the Connecticut Witch and Culture Festival. That's going to be huge this year because we have people from the Exoneration Project, which we haven't been able to have before. I think the word is getting out of the reverence that we have for the people that were accused of witchcraft in Connecticut. So we're going to be having memorial services on that, raising some money to try and make a little bit of awareness, and just an all-out great weekend. So I'm looking forward to that. Now, Salem Paracon will be November 14th. We'll see if I'm on then. So, all right. And
Well,
okay, I didn't know if I lost you there, buddy.
no,
You were
I'm
waving
sorry.
at
No, I was
me.
waving. Some people are saying hi, and I know you like to
Okay.
do all those at the end, and I was just waving to some of the people who was making comments.
Yeah, I don't know. Let me go over here. Let's see comments. Okay, there we go.
Got Jimmy Penatino.
Jimmy
Yeah.
P, Mr. Haunted, just so you guys know, Jimmy's been at this industry for the longest. I've known him for a while. A lot of people don't realize is Jimmy has taken part in, I think, way over 50 exorcisms. He
Oh,
was
wow.
actually at a young age was the photographer, videographer for Ed and Lorraine Warren. So he spent a lot
Cool.
of time with them just behind the camera. So we call him Jimmy, Mr. Haunted. Tons of experience, and of course, I see my better half on there, Stacia
Yep.
Wills. So
Stacia's
I'm
on there.
excited about that. Yeah, tonight's episode really is going to, hit home maybe for a few people. I hope it does. I'm a by rule, what I learned in my time in law enforcement, passing
Mhm.
along to you guys the last 12 weeks. Close to 40 years now in the paranormal, just learning my building blocks. As I said, Jimmy, we both had our start at a very young age with Ed and Lorraine to get building blocks from them. And we'll talk about this later. But the whole matter of fact, we learn to do the work, and we want to pass that along to people in a proper way without negativity. And we're going to talk about a few of those things tonight. But Sean, without further ado, we're going to get into it. So let's zoom in on the paranormal mind.
All righty, here we go.
All right, guys. This is a big one tonight. I've been stressing over this one, just trying to look at this in a way of more my life experience, my experience as a shaman, my experience in law enforcement and profiling, putting it all together and just rolling it out to you guys to just hopefully take a look at yourself being involved in this industry, or just asking the right questions or anything like that. And just knowing that the paranormal is something to have fun, something to revere, something to look at. And, you know, don't take this wrong, but sometimes you have to just have fun with it and keep it open and not be so darn serious, you know, because it gets crazy after a while. But let's take a look at the behaviors of it. You know, I'm going to start off kind of light on you guys, and then we're going to get heavy near the end. I just want to try and hit this home, and hopefully you guys understand. I'm not going to name any names because I'm not that type of person. But again, if you feel this, and again, don't get angry at me. Get angry at yourself. Take a look in the mirror. Make those changes for yourself so you could enjoy this industry, enjoy the camaraderie that some of us, like, you know, Jimmy and I have known each other for a while. We enjoy that back and forth. Of course, my partner, who's the only one that knows more about me than anybody else. And that's important because too much times in this industry, everybody thinks they know you and they think they could say whatever they want. That's a poor behavior. And we're going to talk about all this. Let's just get down to it. So the pursuit of the paranormal is a complex tapestry woven from psychological, existential, and sociological threads. For many, it is not merely a hobby, but an attempt to answer the most profound questions of human experience. So here are the primary drivers behind why people are drawn to the unexplained. So the search for existential meaning. I like to put the big words in there. So just so you guys know, I spend over a week in planning and all this to put all this research together and all that, which, you know, might become part of a book, hint. But, you know, just to give you guys the best information and research it and my experiences and all that, just throwing it all together. And hopefully, again, like you guys like it. But let's start off the search for existential meaning. At its core, the fascination with the paranormal often masks a desire to understand what happens after death. For those struggling with grief or the fear of mortality, evidence of an afterlife or continued consciousness provides a powerful sense of comfort. It reframes death as a transition rather than an end, offering a narrative of hope that suggests our consciousness survives the physical body, which I firmly believe. That's why we're able to communicate sometimes and have that communication and help spirit, or spirit helps us heal things or get us in touch, especially with our ancestors, because love never leaves us. So that spirit's always there to guide. The psychological of controlled fear. Engaging with the paranormal allows individuals to experience adrenaline and the fear within a safe, controlled environment, a phenomenon sometimes called recreational fear. Much like watching a horror movie or riding a roller coaster, investigating an unknown triggers a fight or flight response. When the individual realizes they are safe, that fear shifts into a rush of excitement and engagement. Definitely does, just within control and all that. And yeah, a lot of people do it for fun. There's a lot of places you could go, which some of us refer to as pay to play, in a safe environment to learn. But a lot of times the research, those are good places to start and learn from people where you could grow into something a little further. So that's always a good thing to get that experience that way. The need for wonder in a scientific world. Modern life is highly structured, rational, and documented for many. The disenchantment of the world, the feeling that everything has been explained, measured, and categorized by science leads to the sense of intellectual and spiritual boredom. The paranormal represents the limit of human knowledge. It serves as a reminder that there may still be mysteries, magic, and forces that science has yet to capture. So we're always on that pursuit. And it says science with that and all that and how they combine. This may be controversial. Like I said, we might go over the rails again. And this is my personal thought, not the networks, anybody else. But I love when people put science into it. I completely understand how we're trying to measure things. But guys, this is the paranormal. And it's impossible to take an EVP and have it happen over and over again where we can measure it properly in the same situation, in the same environment. That's why it stays paranormal. I do understand the fact that we need to write these things down and how they happen, but it's nearly impossible to do a proper scientific experiment to get something to repeat that way. Of course, we're all going to try. I'm not going to tell you not to try, but that's just my own beliefs after all this time. Can't make it all happen over and over and over and over again. But keep trying. I don't blame you, and it is fun. And if you're dedicated to it and you're doing the work, I will never tell you not to. The next thing, curiosity and intellectual challenge. For those with a research-oriented mindset, the paranormal acts as a massive, unsolved puzzle. It requires gathering data, evaluating eyewitness testimonies, and using technology to attempt to capture phenomenon. This appeals, of course, to the investigative spirit, turning the quest into a personal mission to prove, disprove, or document things that defy conventional explanation. It's a pursuit, just like the pursuit of happiness that we do. We just want to do this. We want to be happy. We want to be in a safe environment. We want to be around, people that enjoy it too, and we enjoy it together without judgment. That's where it comes to the next thing: community and shared experiences. Paranormal investigations often foster strong social bonds, whether it is a local ghost hunting group, a convention, or an online community. These spaces allow people to share stories and experiences that they might otherwise be afraid to talk about for fear of being labeled irrational. Finding your tribe of like-minded individuals who share a niche interest provides a sense of belonging and validation. Very important. That's a positive. I think sometimes when people bring other things into it, other than that, that's what turns it into a negative. So a perspective on the why. From your vantage point as an investigator, and it has me as an investigator and a behavioral professional, I likely see these motivations intersect with trauma, our human need for closure. My line of work from before and even over the 40 years to chase is often less about the thrill of the ghost, but more of the human need to bridge the gap between the known and the unknown. I want to help others find peace or clarity in the process. So if we're giving our extensive experience in behavioral profiling like I do, and being able to see mediumship, being a shaman, anything like that, I always find the why usually stems from personal grief or from broader philosophical curiosities about the nature of reality. It's a big thing. It's a big thing we tackle with our group Wardruna, and coming to the fact that a lot of our times when we go out seeking the spirits or anything like that, or somebody calls us for assistance, a lot of times it's grief and trauma, and that's what creates that paranormal situation. And that's something that we have to really take a look at: behaviors of people and what they create, whether they're in the community or whether it's a client that needs our help. Those are things we really have to look at, those behaviors. So let's take a little harder look. We're going to just get a harder look and harder look as we go on tonight, because I think it's important. There's a lot going on. We got a lot of things coming up. The season really is starting to pick up, and I think we need to understand each other a little bit better, where we come from. But there's the human fascination with the paranormal as a complex intersection of psychology, evolutionary biology, and the search for meaning. For those who study or experience the anomalous. We pull are rarely driven by a single factor, but rather a convergence of internal needs and cognitive processes. So the pattern seekers. So at our core, humans are pattern recognition machines. Evolutionary, it was safer to perceive a rustle in the grass as a potential predator, or what we call an agent, than to assume it was just the wind, a survival trait known as hyperactive agency detection device, or HAD. Agency detection, what we look at, we are a biological predisposed to attribute intent and agency to unexplained events. When a door slams or our brain asks, who was that? Or rather than what physical law caused that vibration. Apophenia and pareidolia, we have powerful drive to find meaningful connections in random data. Apophenia, and to see recognizable shapes in ambiguous stimuli, which is pareidolia, such as faces in the clouds or static and what we hear through the static. We really have to discern that and really, grow your paranormal ear, like I like to call it, and be able to see what is real and what isn't by how we use our behaviors or our learned abilities and all those types of things to discern that. So there's also the control and mortality. The paranormal serves as a profound psychological mechanism for coping with the most uncomfortable of human realities, the unknown and the inevitable. Terror management theory, TMT. The fear of death is a primary human motivator. Paranormal belief systems often offer a framework for an afterlife or consciousness surviving physical death, which mitigates existential anxiety. So we're trying to let people know, hey, there's possibly something there. It gives some people a little bit of relief. We're always striving towards that to make a little bit more, into understanding that more. And a lot goes into that. But the illusion of control, life is inherently chaotic. Of course, it's been very chaotic lately for some of us. But engaging with the paranormal, whether through investigation, ritual, or mediumship, can transform the frightened, random, unseen into something with rules, logic, and potential for interaction. It turns the victim of uncertainty into an active participant. A lot of fear causes, I think, the paranormal behavior-wise or trauma-wise to get out of control. I think once that fear goes away and you show a love to it, you're counteracting and you're getting more of an understanding. And when the fear goes away, you have more understanding. I think a lot of times that's what it ends up being for especially home cases. Emotional and psychological needs. Beyond cognition, individuals are drawn to the paranormal to satisfy deeper emotional cravings. They search for awe and wonder. Modern life is often described as disenchanted. Of course, the paranormal offers a sense of mystery and the sublime. The feeling of being in the presence of something vast and beyond our current understanding. I always look at it as, man, I could be talking to somebody from history because I'm a big history buff. And yeah, that awe and wonderment, it always hits me pretty much with that side of it. Having the opportunity a few years back during an Estes method and having potentially a conversation with Andrew Borden and getting to question him about what he might have done to his kids to cause his own murder, that was intense. But potentially, you have to say it. I don't know. It's the paranormal. Was I talking to him? I felt it. It was my own personal experience with the other group. But hey, I could have been talking from somebody from history. With everybody talks about Lizzie Borden and all that. So the potential was there. So yes, awe and wonderment. So validation of experiences. Many people become involved because they have had an experience they cannot reconcile with their current worldview. Seeking out the paranormal is a process of trying to find a community or a language that validates their reality rather than pathological parts of it. But emotional processing of grief, as you often see in your work with crossing spirits over. Of course, that's my work of crossing spirits over. Anybody joining the show, I don't know, that may not know me or may have knew me years ago or anything like that, as a shaman, one of the most important things I think for me personally and what I do for spirit is sitting down with spirit through devices or just third eye cognition and seeing their grief and their trauma and their anchors or what are holding them here. If you've ever done an investigation with me, I think there's a few of you out there watching, when a device gets turned on, you'll start hearing my name called over and over and over again. Whatever you believe or not, like we're going over, but when they call my name, my spirit guides tell them, if you want help to leave, if you don't want to be here anymore, just call his name. And it does happen. And I'm truly grateful for that. And it's spirit working through me. I'm just a catalyst. I'm no special than anybody else. It's just chosen. And I've learned to, work on that and, get better at it. Of course, for the fact that I want to help the spirits and cross them over. It's very powerful and therapeutic components and all that. But the connection that I have to the departed can provide closure, reduce guilt for them, and maybe soothe the pain of loss and what's holding them here. So that's an unbelievable thing. And I know there's a lot of other people out there that have that gift that somebody, a higher power, spirit guides, ancestors work through you to assist that. So I'm blessed for that, and I appreciate that. But psychological profiling, our need for uniqueness. So studies in this personality traits of those highly involved in the paranormal often show higher levels of openness to experience. So a need for uniqueness. Some individuals find conventional scientific or religious explanations unsatisfying or exclusionary. The paranormal provides a niche identity that differentiates them from the mainstream and offers a sense of being part of an in-the-know group. So empathetic sensitivity. So we've got to be very cognizant of that sometimes. So as an empath, you likely have to recognize that many people are drawn to this field, have a thin boundary. And they're thin boundary type of individuals. They're more emotionally porous, meaning that they may be more sensitive to subtle environment cues, social energies, and internal states that others might filter out as noise. Again, you got to learn that ear, what's coming through, and how to try and pinpoint something that's closer to fact than not. There's give you a little bit of perspective. So with my background in profiling and of course trauma with Wardruna and what we do, I'm going to view this through a lens of environmental processing. So, let's look at it as an offender. Like a criminal offender creates a signature that reflects their internal state. The way a person engages with the paranormal reflects their own need for a narrative or coherence. It is the human instinct to write a story in the margins of the unknown. How do I find this? I really find this with behavioral analysis, with profiling. Those influences the way you approach a story behind someone's paranormal claim. You really have to look at it. Really what it comes down to is your individual experience. Can I say you didn't have that experience? No, I'm not you. A lot of these people out there that poo-poo somebody's experience, they were there. That was their experience that they're holding on to. And, how they process that and how they come to that conclusion is them. It's their own experience. And I can't say that it's not. Too many people out there nowadays in this field, tell people that they're crazy and all this other stuff. That no, that didn't happen. But most of those people are the ones that weren't there and didn't experience, weren't there in the environment, weren't there to feel what they feel. It's somebody coming up to me and telling me, you didn't do that and you didn't feel that. It's like, how do you know how I feel? You weren't there. You didn't feel it with me. But again, even the feeling part of it, everybody has a different perspective. My partner said this best the other day. Let's look at it. We're in a area and somebody gets shot and there's 50 people around. All 50 people have a different perspective, but it's all the perspective of that shooting. So everybody's going to look at it differently. They're all going to have a different personal experience. when the person comes in that wasn't there to see the guy shot and said he was stabbed, he wasn't there. The guy was shot, whether you look at it different ways. So we have so much of that in this field, unfortunately, that people want to put a narrative in there when they weren't there to see a gunshot, but they want to call it a stabbing. So that drives me nuts. But let's get in a little bit of the mental health side of things, the paranormal belief. There's a lot of people out there, you know, there's psychic mediums, of course, shaman and all that, how we see, or some of us that don't see, some people that have the real gift, some people that are just mentally ill, or to the fact of the matter is you likely could start hearing voices. And the only problem, the reason why you're hearing voices, it's not because you're psychic, it's because you have a vitamin D deficiency. Sometimes if that vitamin D deficiency goes back, the voices go away. So you really have to discern, is there something going on with the minerals in my body? Is there something going on where people could start hearing voices when they have maybe a brain tumor or something that changes things? There's a lot of factors that go into it. Some people, of course, they're born with this ability. Some people's abilities happen out of trauma or anything like that. We really have to discern where there is a actual gift or where there is actually a disassociation. And that's the hardest part. You really have to look at these things, get yourself checked out and all that. And, no offense to anybody, but if this resonates, then again, take a look in the mirror, get yourself looked at, whatever you got to do. But the intersection of mental health and paranormal belief is a multifaceted topic that psychologists, sociologists, and researchers have studied for decades. There is no single reason why individuals experience mental health challenges might gravitate toward the paranormal. Rather, it often involves a combination of cognitive, emotional, and social factors. So let's break that down with primary theories and drivers researchers have identified. So we call our pattern recognition or apophenia. The human brain is hardwired to find meaning in chaos. This is known as apophenia, the tendency to perceive meaningful connections between unrelated things, the mechanism. For those dealing with high anxiety, trauma, or certain mental health conditions, the brain may enter a hypervigilant state. This heightened state of alertness can lead to an increased tendency to interpret ambiguous stimuli like a random sound, a shadow, or a glitch in a video as evidence of the paranormal. So we have our cognitive bias. It provides a framework to explain experiences that might otherwise be frighteningly chaotic or unexplainable. So we also have the need for control and agency. Mental health struggles, particularly those stemming from trauma or chronic depression, can leave an individual feeling powerless or overwhelmed by internal sensations, externalizing and internalizing, attributing internal turmoil or heavy feelings to an external supernatural cause could sometimes be a coping mechanism. It shifts the problem from something wrong with the individual to something occurring around them. So there's a predictability, or paradoxically, a haunted environment can sometimes feel more predictable than the invisible. Internal symptoms of mental health condition. Engaging with the paranormal offers a way to confront fear in a structured, observable environment. So we have, of course, talked early, disassociation and altered states. So many individuals with histories or trauma or certain psychological conditions experience disassociated states where they feel detached from their surroundings or their own body. Validating this experience in the world of paranormal, these experiences are often interpreted as clairsentience, sensitivity, or mediumship. This provides a community and a cultural vocabulary that validates these experiences as spiritual gifts rather than symptoms of disorder, potentially reducing the stigma associated with sensations. Yes, of course, we are a safe environment, but again, when some of these things come up, the gift's there. So why not validate the gift? Why don't we just make sure that there isn't some kind of deficiency, there isn't something mental health going on that created your view on things? Have you been watching too many paranormal shows? We'll get into that. There's a lot that goes into it. There are people out there that are truly gifted, and there are people out there that that might be calling out to things they shouldn't be calling out to, that are giving them the words and all that. But it's a whole nother disassociation right there, in a way to cope, unfortunately, with the negative of which attracts a lot of people into the paranormal, those answers. But the people that are in those types of states, they're drawn towards that darkness sometimes. But let's look at the search for the meaning and connection. Sociologists have observed that paranormal belief often spikes during times of social instability or personal crisis. This has happened a lot. Hey, during COVID, a lot grew in the paranormal. I think right after 9/11, with all that death and what we saw on TV, and wondering if the world was coming to an end and we were getting attacked, a lot of the TV shows arose out of that. So there is that spike in need to look at things, and the yellow fever, the Fox sisters coming up after those types of diseases, and that movement and all that. There's a lot that goes into it, but it's that point when more death starts happening in our face. We're looking for more answers, so that spikes up. So there's an existential comfort from the prospect of the paranormal, suggests that there is something beyond the physical world which can provide immense comfort to those struggling with feelings of isolation, hopelessness, or grief. It creates a narrative where the soul survives, life has a deeper purpose, and the individual is part of a larger interconnected cosmos. So again, we have our community, and our community validating us and how we look at things. The paranormal community often offers a sense of belonging that traditionally medical or social structures may fail to provide for those feeling marginalized. Again, this is the big thing with Wardruna, bringing that all together, where we could help people that think that way, because there are a lot of people out there with the stigma of going to see a psychiatrist to get help from what they're seeing. They'll go visit, a medium or a psychic and see that. But a lot of times the psychic and medium don't see the mental health, the struggle. They have nowhere to turn. So with our group Wardruna and the practitioners in that, and the Rolodex, knowing that somebody comes in and you notice that, hey, they need some assistance. Hey, I got somebody for you. Go see these guys, because the people in the Rolodex aren't judging you because you might see a ghost or you're feeling a certain way. So we could work through that a lot differently. So I'm glad we have a group that could help the community and validate your feelings and what you're going through. But so in that clinical context, the professionals are going to monitor for breakdown and reality testing. The concern arises if a belief system significantly impairs an individual's daily function, prevents them from seeking necessary medical care, or causes severe distress. Modern psychology generally focuses on helping the individual manage their systems and find comfort, regardless of whether they choose to interpret their experience through scientific, spiritual, or paranormal lens. So with my background as a behaviorist, a professional in the field, I do look at the client's approach and the paranormal changes, and process their personal trauma, of course, with Wardruna. That remains a consistent part of their identity. So, if you identify and all that, and you're looking for answers, hopefully we get those for you in a healthy way. So that's what we provide. But one of the biggest things I talked about earlier is sometimes with a lot of our home cases that we do, one of the questions I always ask people, when did all this paranormal stuff start for you? And what was happening at the time? And it's funny that a lot of times they answer, oh, we watched this horror movie, or we started watching this paranormal show. And then all of a sudden the things that were normal with, a raccoon getting in your attic now becomes a scary ghost, and we have to look into something and take that fear away. But a lot of times it's what gets embedded in our mind just from what we watch and what we observe and all that, and we have to discern that properly. But there is what happens to people psychologically when they watch too many paranormal or horror shows. From a behavioral and clinical perspective, chronic exposure to paranormal and horror media acts as a form of repetitive conditioning, because the human brain is not perfectly efficient at distinguishing between controlled digital stimuli and real world threats. Frequent consumption triggers specific psychological and cognitive shifts. So let's look at an analysis of that trajectory that we often observe in heavy consumers of this genre. So let's look at it. When a person engages with horror, they intentionally trigger the body's fight or flight response. While this provides a dopamine rush and in short term, consistent exposure can lead to a state of chronic hyperarousal. The mechanism, the amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, remains in a heightened state of alert. The result can lead to sleep fragmentation, increased baseline anxiety, and a lower threshold for startled responses in a daily life. For the viewer, the boundary between media and reality becomes porous, leading to a sustained physiological stress long after the screen is off. So we have the mean world syndrome. So if anybody's ever heard of that, it's originating from the work of George Gerbner. He is a cultivation theory. He possessed that heavy consumers of media perceive the real world through the lens of the content they ingest. The distorted lens, frequent exposure to paranormal, true crime, or horror narratives cause the brain to heuristically estimate risk. If a person consumes high volumes of material involving malevolent entities or criminal predators, they are statistically more likely to view their own environment as inherently more dangerous or haunted than it objectively is. This happens quite a bit. So the impact, this manifests as increased paranoia or a persistent feeling of being watched, effectively priming the brain to look for patterns of malevolence and benign environmental stimuli. Paranormal, true crime, we're talking about both tonight, so hopefully I don't mess up your sleep pattern or anything like that by talking about this stuff, but it is important. So now there's the desensitizing or anything like that, a habitual loop, much like a tolerance buildup for a chemical substance. The brain develops a habit to fear stimuli. The progression, once the scare of a standard horror movie becomes the new baseline, the viewer often seeks more extreme, visceral, or disturbing content to achieve the same emotional catharsis. The outcome, this can lead to a numbing effect where the viewer requires higher levels of intensity to feel a psychological response. This process can inadvertently dull one's empathy as the brain begins to categorize the human suffering or the other side depicting in these shows as purely entertainment rather than reality, especially if you're borderline or have issues at that moment. Some of those things become catalysts for people that watch a lot of this stuff too much. It becomes a catalyst to worse things, like we talked about. Hey, I'm talking about a show profile here. You know, can that put a person over the edge to become a serial killer? Probably. It could be an aspect of it. That's why we really have to keep things in check and what we're watching and know, hey, it's just a movie. This isn't real life. And to make sure that that doesn't bleed into us on our daily lives and just there for entertainment. But again, not everybody's brains work the same. Unfortunately, these things happen. But there's the vicarious trauma and the empathetic load. That's a big one. For those who possess high levels of empathy or who work professionally as investigators, this consumption carries a specific risk of vicarious trauma. We have the empathetic bridge. Unlike a casual viewer, a behaviorist like myself or an empath like myself does not watch the screen. I process the narrative of tension. If the content involves intense themes of trauma, possession, or predatory behavior, the viewer may experience a secondary traumatic stress. So that's a big thing to look at. You know, being an empath and you see these things, sometimes you're like, I'm feeling bad, but it's a TV show. They're acting, but sometimes you can't help yourself when you're really deep in, especially when you get involved with the characters. Because even for me, horror aside, or just the act of violence, when I watch Game of Thrones and your favorite character gets killed off and you just feel that empathy for him, and you're so ingrained in it, and your mind says, this is a show, it's not real. But you take it as real, and it changes your trajectory and who you are. So you got to discern that and keep that in check. The mind absorbs the emotional residue of the depicted suffering without proper debriefing or sociological grounding rituals. This can lead to an emotional exhaustion or burnout. Of course, Game of Thrones, are like, oh, it's over, and you feel all sad and stuff. But yeah, those shows and movies, that stuff will do that to you, especially when the acting is really good. So there's also that protective frame, the professional separation. So it's worth noting in this field that it's often mitigated by the protective frame that I'm talking about here. But intellectually deconstructing the media, analyzing the narrative structure, the production techniques, or the criminal profiling that we could do, the professional moves from the subjective fear to the objective analysis. This cognitive reframing protects the viewer from the adverse effects listed above as the brain is engaged in the work mode rather than the survival mode. Yeah, those crazy things that happen. So now we're getting into the nitty gritty. I hope you guys are still with me and all that. I know I throw some of these big words because I'm one of those idiot writers that likes to put big words that I can't even pronounce myself, but that's just the way I write. I love my thesaurus. I love to change words up and, put meaning behind them. But, it's fun. I enjoy that. It helps me. If you don't like it, I don't know what to tell you, but I enjoy it. And, but that's where it comes down to sometimes is let's get into the big one. And just so you guys know, I'm not a title person. I know sometimes I have to say what I do, I'm on these shows. I'm going to come down to it. Yes, I'm a shaman. Yes, I'm part of the Shaman and the Showman group that does all these events. I'm one of the co-directors and founders of Ordruna. I do this show Profile. I'm a former criminal behaviorist profiler, worked in the Florida system and all this other stuff, all these titles and all that. But when it comes down to it, it doesn't mean anything. I want you guys to listen to me and really look at me on this one. I'm a firm believer, and I learned a long time ago, and my dad told me this, and I had issues with my dad growing up. I went through some traumas and all that. But as I get older, I learned to understand my father even more. And I remember he looked at me one day. Nobody cares how much you know until they know you care. That's the difference. And that could be the difference between you, succeeding your goals in this industry by doing the work, or those failing because your goal is ego and to climb to a top of, an industry that you think you're going to be rich and famous. Unfortunately, I think that's gone by the wayside. I think a matter of even our group being involved in this is about healing. There's a lot of other things coming up. There's a lot of, I think, changes coming up. I think when we heal and understand things more and understand each other, it opens up the research behind the paranormal and how to look at it in a different lens and change and, those types of things, and more of the research to the mind of it, the metaphysical side of it, the healing side of it, the psychological side of it, those types of things, and how we look at things and how traumas create paranormal situations. That's my belief. But I think one of the things that gets in the way of that sometimes is I am doing the work. Our group is doing the work. And, there are detractors out there. There's detractors in any field. But again, why would you detract some people trying to have a healing group to help people heal and understand with, of course, again, for me, my life experience, my traumas, my background in profiling and all that, I put that together to help people. Helping people is the main important thing. I learned from my mentors growing up, Ed and Lorraine Warren, the building blocks and all that is this industry, whatever you believe about them or not, the thing that I got from it was Lorraine recognized something in me, my abilities, and I got to say, she pretty much saved my life. And I owed it to them to pretty much follow that way of looking at things, help people, help spirit. That's all it is. Ego will always take you further away from spirit. So this last section I want to go over with you guys is ego. So the pursuit of the paranormal and the metaphysical often places individuals in a space where objective empirical proof is elusive. When the barrier between the known world and the unknown is so thin, human psychology often fills that void with a need for certainty, which unfortunately I don't think we're going to get. But some people think they know everything, and we're going to talk about that. Leading to posturing of ego and claims of omniscience. Psychologically, this behavior typically stems from a few core drivers. So this need for control in the uncontrollable domain. The paranormal is by definition anomalous. It does not follow the predictable laws of physics or standard behavioral science. For many, the anxiety generated by this lack of control is intolerable. Cognitive closure. People have a psychological need for closure, the desire for a definitive answer on a topic, any answer rather than confusion or ambiguity. By adopting an all-knowing persona, an individual shields themselves from the discomfort of saying, I don't know. You got to say, I don't know. There's too many people that say, I know, and they think they know. It's paranormal. Nobody fucking knows. So don't mind my French. But reducing existential dread, the unknown, specifically death, spirits, and afterlife, triggers deep-seated existential fear. Claiming mastery often over these topics acts as a defense mechanism. If someone knows the rules of the spirit world, they feel safer in their own existence. Yeah, we try and do that and all that, but there's some people, it's overboard, and that behavior is not going to help you with spirit, unfortunately. So it's understanding for our own personal reasons. And, there's too many people that go out and say, I could do this, I could do that, I could heal you, you have a demon, I could cure you. And no, people have their own personal thoughts of things. If somebody needs your assistance, the universe will bring them to you. All right. If they know you have that answer, or they're going to use you as a catalyst for that answer, they'll come to you. You're not all knowing. We're just humans living the human experience. And hopefully the spirit world uses us as that catalyst for some of us, psychic mediums, shamans, whatever, to be able to give the message and, properly at the right time. So there's also this status of a lot of people lately. I've seen a lot of this on the internet is people are gatekeepers. They're the gatekeeper dynamic. It's in each the communities like parapsychology or occult studies. Expertise is not always measured by peer-reviewed data. Instead, it is often measured by social standing, historical connections, or the possession of supposed secret knowledge. We have that expert persona. Again, there's no such thing as an expert in this field, because how are you an expert of something that can't really be proven? We're all here, all chasing the same thing. Nobody's better than the next person. So again, we're talking about ego. Get rid of ego. I think if you become more open and more open to listening instead of telling everybody how great you are, then maybe some of this stuff will start coming through a little easier for you, instead of putting up that hurdle for yourself, basically, or for others. Again, take a look at the mirror, see if you're doing something wrong here. But in the field where everyone is essentially guessing, the person who speaks with the most unshakable confidence often wins the social hierarchy. We got those yappers on that, but I'm a firm believer. I'll go back in time. Again, another lesson my dad told us: the person talking too much is the one that has the least amount of knowledge. So avoid that. It's better to listen and observe. But boasting is a way to claim the role of the gatekeeper, which provides a sense of power and social validation that is difficult to attain in a more traditional professional fields. I really do think a lot of people get involved in the paranormal. They see it on TV and go, oh, that looks easy. And it's funny, the people that do have something to say are pushed into the corner. I think behaviorally for people like this, I really think the more people talk and all that, the least knowledge that they have. But again, it's hard to discern because it's the paranormal. Nobody knows, what's going on. We have an idea, we have experiences and all that. We try and put them together. We try and detail that. But unfortunately, nobody knows. And for you to come out and say, it makes you not good for the field. And in my book, if you're not trying to help, your client or help others or help spirit, I don't know why you're still doing this, and it just irks me. There's a lot that's happened over the last couple of weeks, and I'm just irked by it. And hopefully this doesn't turn you off while I'm telling you guys all this stuff, but that's just the way it is. This is the season finale, and I got time to get over all this. But the thing is I'm aggravated. I get aggravated by this stuff. And, I've been at this for years. And am I better than anybody? No, I'm not. I can't prove it. I can't prove it exists. I have experiences in the fact that people reach out and I go help them and take the fear away and they're able to sleep after 2 years. Or if a child's getting abused and we get called into a court case to make sure that child doesn't keep getting abused in a situation of somebody saying somebody in a demonics, I don't care. You guys got to understand something. I don't care. All I care about is helping people and helping the paranormal, giving people a platform to have something to say. I'm really, in my mind, I'm done with that. If you're going to come, like I said, I had a post earlier this week. If you're going to come to my door, I'm going to put it this way: you better wipe that shit off your shoes because you ain't coming through that door. I'm here to teach, and what I know, and whether you take from it, you make up your own mind of what I give you. I can't make you think the way you want to think, and nobody out there can make you think the way you want to think. It's your own beliefs, what happens to you, what you believe, and how you could push the paranormal forward, how you could help people. So, sorry, a lot of things have aggravated me, but let's just get through this. The psychological superiority attribution, there's a cognitive bias where individuals who have a profound subjective experience like a personal haunting or a psychic event feel that this experience grants them a higher tier or understanding than the general public. Subjective realism because the experience felt 100% real to them. Of course, it probably did. I can't tell you one way or another, but don't go telling people that you're the omnipresent, all-powerful now and all that. Take your experience, keep it personal and all that. Learn, be open. That's what I want to say to you guys. But that struggle, they relate to skeptics. They often view skepticism as a lack of intelligence or spiritual development rather than a healthy scientific approach. So this allows them to project an air of superiority. I know because I've seen it, of course. And if you haven't seen it, you simply aren't as enlightened, I guess. I don't know the way to look at it. If you're in this industry, you've seen it. So I'll just put it that way. Professional survival and persona branding. Someone who has navigated both the clinical world of corrections and this metaphysical world of the paranormal, went through a lot during corrections too, with everybody thinking, they knew what was going on. And fortunately, that's a life or death situation as opposed to the paranormal. Some people are already dead and some people are just dead in the head. I'm going to put it that way. But there's the showmanship trap. So there's audience expectation. The audience often want a guru, not a researcher. People come to the paranormal investigations looking for guidance, comfort, and definitive truths. Pressure to provide this can cause even the most grounded investigators to inflate their certainty, effectively morphing into a character that audiences demand. Let's put it this way. Like I said before, there's some people, they have a niche. They put this persona on. What are they really doing? Can you look in the mirror? Are you helping somebody and all that? And again, I said it before, nobody cares how much you know until they know you care. But the other part of it is some of us, you could educate yourself to the fullest. You could go to college, you could get a degree, but guess what? It's just an effing piece of paper until you apply it. So stop telling people that I have this degree, that degree, this title, doctor, whatever the hell you want to be. It doesn't matter until you apply it and all that in this field. Apply it, do the work. People that are jealous are lazy, not doing the work, okay? But let's do the contrast here. There's a distinct psychological difference between the all-knower and the true investigator. The all-knower seeks to minimize the mystery to satisfy their own ego. The true investigator seeks to amplify the mystery because they respect the limitations of human perception. So in this work, you're going to likely find the most profound insights come from the humility, remember that, humility of realizing that the metaphysical is an ever-expanding frontier. Things change. Even people like Ed and Lorraine don't know what we know now, but yet people now condemn them. All right? It's the same thing as doctors many, many years ago used to think bloodletting would cure people. Okay? We laugh at that now. But they still had to do the research and the work and all that, and not point fingers and say, I'm better than this guy, that guy. The science or the research or the documentation or the experiences and any cognitive thing that we have to do to get to something, that happens. Things change, people. It's very vast. None of us have all the answers. God forbid, we only use about 10, 15% of our brain. Who the hell knows what the rest of it does? We're still trying to figure all that out. But there's limitations to our human perception. So we have to know that. Nobody knows everything, people. It's the human perception. It's limited for now. Hopefully we keep working at it. But, humility and realizing the metaphysical is an ever-expanding frontier, like I said, not a solved puzzle. The ego boasting is almost always a sign that the individual is more concerned with their place in a hierarchy than with the integrity of the phenomenon they're studying. So, guys, with my background in profiling and all that, I hate to keep bringing it up, but, I've just seen a lot of bullshit in the last couple of weeks. And the thing you guys got to understand about me, a lot of you will say what you say, but the people that really know me know that I will do anything for my friends. I care about them. I will never speak ill about them. And I always encourage them to do the work and whatever I could do to help them out, to try and make things a little easier for them, whether it be in the paranormal, whether it just be in life. Believe you me, I've made so many mistakes in my life, but I learned from them. I faced myself in the mirror, my own wrongdoings and all that. And as a shaman, I had to let go of the human side of the ego and all that, to let go of that, to get closer to spirit, just to kind of make sense of purpose and what we're doing here, and even in the paranormal. And I really don't think there's room for the ego. I think you got to be in awe. You can't be the know-it-all, the be-all, end-all, the gatekeeper and telling people they're wrong and all this other stuff. The behaviors and just the way it is. I know the paranormal attracts a lot of those narcissist, ego-driven people. It's seen. I've seen so much of it over the years. I try to avoid it, and I know I'm doing this episode right now, and but it's that point. Last couple weeks has been one of those couple weeks, and I'm glad I'm doing this episode, and hopefully you guys take away something from it. But again, I'm not going to call anybody out, but people know who they are, and get your shit together, face yourself in the mirror, fix your own problems and all that. Don't take them to my doorstep. Don't take them to my better half's doorstep either. We don't care. We don't care about those things and all that, what you're doing and what you're saying and all this other stuff. If you need assistance, if you got some trauma going on and you want help, I'm going to be there for you, whether I like you or not. All right. That's what I do. That's what our group does. But don't give me any BS and all that. And don't think for a moment after doing these 12 episodes and what I used to do for a living, I don't care what you say, but the thing is I'm going to tell you one thing. If you think you're going to pull one over on me, you're not going to. Definitely not. You are not going to. So leave it alone. Leave these groups alone that are trying to do good. If you don't want to do the work, then in my book, get out, because you ain't coming through my freaking door anymore. All right. So get it together. Get your behaviors together like we talked about tonight, because, hey, we all see you. There's enough people out there that see you. So get your shit right, and, you know, enjoy this field. Enjoy the wonder of it. Have fun with it. Have fun with the spirits, because the spirits want to have fun too sometimes, you know. Play a song for them. Give them, if they're still here and they want to stay here, you know, show them fun. Dance with them. Pretend you're dancing with them. Ask them questions of happiness and all that. You know, be more positive and, you know, stop this negativity. I know it's the paranormal and darkness and but stop the BS and all that. Take your traumas, take care of them, seek out help, whatever you got to do. Again, got a group that could help you, but get rid of the ego. Have some humility and, you know, in this industry, because I love this industry, and what I've seen lately is a bunch of bullshit, really, to tell you the truth. And we need to take care of this industry. The ones that came before us, that showed us the building blocks, we learned from it, we expanded on it. But the only way we're going to keep expanding is by being open to learn, to not beat everybody up over our perceived being a gatekeeper and thinking we know it all, and our big egos and all this other stuff. And I did this, I did. Nobody gives a shit. All right. When I look in the mirror and all that, I'm the one that's got to pay my bills and all this other stuff. You know, that's just the way it is. And you got to look at it that way. But if you put off a positive and you care about people, and you know, you show them that you care, then I think this industry is going to go a little bit further. That's kind of how I look at it. But really, I don't give a crap about, you know, the bullshit that you're bringing to this community. So cut it out, go away, whatever you got to do. There's people around here that want to make it work, and those are the people I want around in my circle. So, you know, that's the biggest thing. The problem, our profiling and my upcoming work that I got. You know, the problem right now is the pattern of ego-driven certainty. Certainly, it presents as a significant hurdle when we're collaborating or networking in this community. Please, people. You know, just in closing tonight, just, you know, get yourself together. It's important. I love everybody in this industry, but just do the work. Let people do the work. You don't know any better than anybody else, but, you know, experience does go a long way. And again, you know, yeah, just because I've been doing this for 40 years doesn't mean that I can't learn something new from somebody that just started. But if you have a big ego, you're a narcissist and all that, you don't belong in this field. You're not helping anybody. So go help yourself first before you try and help people. But let's bring Sean back out. Hopefully, let's close this down, because I'm going to be on another show after this on the same network with the Southern Fried, and we're going to be talking about some cool stuff too.
I'll be right there with you.
Yeah. Did you get any questions at all, or did I just like screw people's minds up from this industry?
You had a lot of people saying hi to each other and making little comments here and agreeing on things and stuff like that, but no questions really stood out. But I do got to say one thing from some of the things you said. I do agree. You know, drop the ego. There's no need for it to be in this field. I've seen people that probably shouldn't even be in this field, and because we've had to clean up messes from some of the things they've messed up, and it's a lot harder to do that coming in and cleaning up a mess afterwards.
Yeah, it definitely is, especially home cases. Over the years, when you go into a home case and you don't approach it the right way, you're leaving your energy imprint on that. And if I have to come in and clean it up, not only do I got to move through your energy imprint to get to the actual what was going on. So please, people, don't do these home cases unless you're prepared for it. If your ego thinks that you can do it, you know, you're going to screw up somebody's life. And I've seen things happen to the point where people go in and there's somebody there mentally ill, and they'll get a psychic in there that doesn't really know what they're doing and says to this person, you have 80 legions of demons on you, when they don't, when they just have schizophrenia and they just need some help and medication.
Most definitely.
Then you tell somebody like that, guess what? In that particular case, this is a real case where the lady says that, and then when another team comes in and they're hearing about this, they come in, but then they get canceled. The reason why they get canceled is because that particular individual didn't want his family to be harmed by these legions of demons, decides to commit suicide. All right? That's where ego comes in. You think you know what you're doing, check yourself, because you could cause some serious harm and people get hurt, especially in this industry. People talk about people and they don't even know them, and they make stuff up because in their minds, they think they're going to get ahead trying to make themselves look better than somebody that's actually doing work. Stop it.
I definitely agree with that. Or even teams that go in and manifest things and compound things on top of it that wasn't even actually there, that just scare the people just to, you know, try to make a name for himself. That's not right either. No, it isn't. It isn't. It's ridiculous and all that. And I got to go into, and some of these people are so competitive with each other. Guys, my better half said it best. There's enough people that have died since the beginning of time. There's enough spirits and haunted places that everybody has an opportunity. Stop it. Stop it. Nobody's better than anybody else. We're all seeking the same thing. Cut it out. Exactly. I agree 100%. I do agree. Yeah. Yeah. Another great show. Hopefully I broke through. I don't know. You know, if anybody's mad at me, screw you. Look yourself in the mirror, because if you're mad at me, you're mad at yourself. So that's all I'm going to put it. Most people, when they get mad, they have allowed themselves because they recognize something in themselves. That's another behavior thing. So take a look in the mirror and fix it. Again, don't come to my door with your BS. I agree. So in that case, we gotta go off to the other show. So guys, hopefully I'll calm down between now and 9:30 when we do the with Len. But other than that, you know, let's end it here. So let's tell you, be ready, guys. The season's coming up. Make sure you check us out. And guess what? We'll go down the rabbit hole again. Have a good one, guys.